There was one thing that happened to me when I was 7 that is fairly dramatic. And we were in Norfolk at the time, so my dad was the vicar of a rural parish in West Norfolk. And we'd had a Saturday morning, I had 2 sisters, still have 2 sisters, and it had been raining all morning. We were frustrated, bored of being indoors. He had meetings all morning. And it got to lunchtime, he just said, let's just go out this afternoon for a walk. So we went for a walk in a nearby forest called Massingham Woods. And the sun was out, the rain had cleared. And as we were walking through this forest, I was age 7. So I'm the kind of age where you just want to get up trees, you want to climb them. There's no trees to climb apart from this one tree. And I don't know which sort of tree it was, but it had 2 huge branches. So I could scarp it up it. And then I just sat in the kind of U bit of the tree, and it started raining again. And my dad was stood here. My mum was there holding my sister Hannah, who was still very young at this stage, and my other sister Becky was there. And Mum said we should move to the other side of the clearing to get into the shelter. And we were like, what are you on about? Madness, like we're already in the shelter, why would we move? And Dad sort of dismissed it. And then Mum said it again. About half a minute later, I think we should move to the other side of the clearing. Again, we were like, Mum, what are you on about? And then I can still see this. And then we're talking 43 years ago, but I can still see her face now. And she just looked at me and then my dad and said, I think we need to move now. So I think Dad, for a peaceful life, said, look, son, get yourself down from the tree. Let's do what your mum says and go across the other side. And probably 30 seconds after we got the other side of this clearing, all I can describe it as being like was like a tornado jet was coming through the forest. And then I can still see it now. I looked up and there was like this tunnel of fire above our heads, and then this almighty explosion. And then a huge thud, and then smoke everywhere, and I can still smell it now. And as the smoke began to clear, when we're clearly traumatized by this, sisters are in tears, I'm just stunned. I see the tree where I was sat, but minutes ago, split in 2. I've still got the photo of it back at home. And we ran sort of screaming back to the car. And later that evening, we went back with some friends, and that's where the photo came from. My mum's friend Rosemary just said to Mum, what made you move? Because there's no kind of reason really for you to actually move, given that you were sheltered already. And she said, I heard this voice just saying move, and I believe it was God. And many years later, I was at a church and a guy had a prophetic word for me. And he said to me, and he didn't know me at all, apart from my TV words. He didn't know this story. Didn't know about my dad, didn't know about what happened when I was that age. And he said, I believe there was something when you were around about 7 that gave you the biggest indication that this God you followed was real. And I went, oh yeah, and then he got killed by lightning. So that was the moment for me when I went, this God that I've learnt about in Sunday school, that Dad talks about, that Dad preaches about, that people come to his church to hear about, isn't some fairy tale. That's the point for me at which it became real.